Welcome to the August 14th, 2026 regular meeting of the San Francisco Ethics Commission. Today's meeting is live cablecast on SF Gov TV and live streamed online at sfgovtv.org/ethicslive. For public comment, members of the public may attend in person or may participate by phone or on the WebEx platform as explained in our agenda document. Clerk, can you please explain how remote public comment will be handled?
Certainly. Public comment will be available on each item of the agenda. Each member of the public will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. For those attending in person, opportunities to speak during the public comment period will be made available here in room 400 at City Hall. For those attending remotely, the public comment period can also be provided via phone call by calling 1-415-655-0001 with access code 2664-678-7460, followed by the pound sign, then press pound again to join as an attendee. When your item of interest comes up, please press *3 to raise your hand to be added to the public comment line. Public comment is also available via the WebEx client application. Use the WebEx link on the agenda to connect and press the raise hand button to be added to the public comment line. For detailed instructions about how to interact with the telephone system or WebEx client, please refer to the public comment section on the agenda document. Public comment may also be submitted in writing and will be shared with the Commission after this meeting has concluded and will be included as part of the official meeting file. Written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Members of the public who attend the Commission meetings, including remote attendants, are expected to behave responsibly and respectfully. During public comment, please address your comments to the Commission as a whole and not to an individual member. People who engage in name-calling, shouting, interruptions, foul language, or other distracting behavior may be excluded from participation.
Thank you, Clerk. I now call the meeting to order. Clerk, will you please call the roll under item 1?
Certainly. Please, Commissioner, please verbally indicate your presence by saying aye after your name is called. Commissioner Francois?
Aye.
Commissioner Tsai?
Aye.
Vice Chair Salahi?
Aye.
Chair Flores-Fang?
Aye.
Chair Flores-Fang, with 4 members present, you have a quorum.
With that, I call agenda item 2, general public comment. Anyone here in the room today who wishes to offer public comment? Seeing no one, Clerk, would you please proceed with any remote public comment on this item?
Chair Flores-Fang, we're checking the queue to see if there's any callers. And it looks like we do have 2 callers on the line. We'll give them 1 moment to connect. Good morning. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Good morning. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Yes, so this is San Francisco. I'm just checking the minutes. I don't know if you guys got my name spelled right either. I think Mr. Shafee had the same problem. So you guys were 10 minutes late today, so that's really unacceptable. You got to be on time. This is a public meeting for the public. Also, there was no May or June meeting, so you meet 12 times out of the year. And I think it's really imperative to be on time and also have the meeting itself. So now you're down to 10 meetings a year. Obviously, there's meetings remaining in this year. So, I mean, really, we deem you guys useless. You're absolutely useless. You have failed the community. You failed the public in many, many ways. And you failed really to investigate critical matters, really critical corruption issues that we've stated in the past. So I don't know why you're even there. I think you should all just pack up right now, leave on screen, and just, walk out right now. I mean, you guys are all fired. It's to you, Ford. I mean, you failed the community immensely. You guys are absolutely useless. So just leave now.
Thank you for your comments. Chair Flores-Fang, we have 1 more caller. We'll give it a moment to connect.
Sullivan.
Good morning. Your 3 minutes starts now.
I believe you are violating the San Francisco Sunshine Ordinance, Section 67.7B, requirement that part of providing a meaningful agenda item description is, it shall refer to any explanatory documents that have been provided to the policy body in connection with an agenda item, such as correspondence or reports. According to Robert's Rules of Orders, a continuing or postponing of an existing agenda item within a meeting or to a future meeting does not make it a new agenda item, as the Ethics Commission staff seem to imply at the July 10th, 2026 Ethics Commission meeting. Regardless, your agenda items for July 10th, 2026 and August 14th, 2026 Ethics Commissions are only referring to records submitted by the Ethics Commission staff, and there is no reference to known records submitted by me for the August 14th, 2026 agenda item 6, discussion and possible action regarding proposed amendments to the Ethics Commission enforcement regulations, or previous same agenda item on July 10th, 2026. At the July 10th, 2026, during public comment, twice former Sunshine Ordinance Task Force member Mr. Pelpel stated that there were records from the Sunshine Ordinance Task that were missing and not referred to in the agenda item. Though what records and what agenda item he is referring to, I do not know, because the Administrative Code Section 67.b is not being followed. This is a situation of not all records being referred to in an agenda item appears to have been happening for some time. I'm asking the Ethics Commissioners to stop on any agenda items that do not comply with the Sunshine Ordinance Administrative Code Section 67.7b until the agenda items description comply. Thank you for your time. Sullivan.
Thank you for your comments. Chair Flores-Fang, we're checking the queue to see if there's any additional callers. And there are no additional callers, Chair.
Thank you. Hearing no further members of the public wishing to speak, general public comment under item 2 is now closed. I now call the consent calendar. Colleagues, as noted on the agenda, there will be no separate discussions on a consent calendar item unless a request is made by a commission member or a member of the public in attendance, in which event the matter shall be removed from the consent calendar and considered as a separate item. Does any commission member wish to pull an item from the consent calendar to speak about it separately? Okay. Anybody in the public? Okay.
Chair, we're checking the queue to see if there's any callers that would like to comment.
Thank you.
And there are no callers.
Thank you. Okay, do I hear a motion to adopt the consent calendar, items 3 and item 4?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Certainly. On the motion to adopt the consent calendar, Commissioner Francois?
Aye.
Commissioner Tsai?
Aye.
Vice Chair Salahi?
Aye.
And Chair Flores-Fang?
Aye.
Chair Flores-Fang, with 4 votes in the affirmative, the motion passes.
Thank you. Item 4 is now closed. I now call agenda item 5, discussion and possible action on proposed campaign finance reforms to reinforce contribution limits and ensure accountability for violations of city law. I'd like to invite the Policy and Legislative Affairs Manager, Michael Canning, to introduce the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. This item presents legislation that would enact recommendations stemming from a policy report first presented to the Commission in April of this year. These recommendations seek to reinforce the city's candidate contribution limit and ensure accountability for violations of city ethics law. Since it's been a few months, I'll briefly review the legislation and happy to take any questions. The city's candidate contribution limit, which prohibits candidates from accepting more than $500 in campaign contributions from a single source, is one of the city's most important tools for preventing quid pro quo corruption and the undue influencing of city-elected officers. However, this rule only currently applies to the committee that is designated to support the candidate's election for city office. This leaves open the ability for candidates, while running for office, to simultaneously control other committees that are not subject to the contribution limit, such as candidate-controlled ballot measure committees. Despite these committees being publicly linked to the candidate and under the direct control of the candidate, these committees are not subject to any limits. This allows individuals who are otherwise limited to contributing just $500 to a candidate's campaign committee to turn around and give thousands of dollars to another committee that is directly controlled and inextricably linked to the candidate. This creates pathways for corruption that the candidate contribution limit is intended to close off. To address this issue, the proposed legislation would apply the city's candidate contribution limit to other types of committees that are controlled by the candidate whenever those committees are controlled by a candidate actively running for city elective office. This change would not prohibit candidates from controlling other committees. It would just extend the contribution limit to those other committees they control. This change would also not prohibit candidates from endorsing or otherwise supporting ballot measure campaigns for which they are not controlling the campaign. Staff believe this to be a balanced approach, narrowly tailored to discourage corruption and reinforce the city's existing limits. The city's contribution limit can also be undermined when third-party spenders take materials from a candidate's campaign and then spend money in excess of the contribution limit to redistribute those campaign materials. The city has rules in place to distinguish when third-party spending is truly independent versus when it is coordinated. If the spending is coordinated with the candidate's campaign, it is considered to be an in-kind contribution and thus subject to the contribution limit. The law already contains a rebuttable presumption of coordination whenever a communication replicates, reproduces, republishes, disseminates, in whole or in substantial part, a communication that is designed, produced, paid for, or distributed by the candidate. However, this still leaves the possibility that this presumption of coordination could be rebutted if the spender were to, say, demonstrate that the campaign materials were publicly available and accessed without direct coordination with the candidate's campaign. This creates a pathway for third-party spenders to spend unlimited amounts of money to republish campaign materials without regard to the existing $500 limit. To address this, the proposed legislation would specify that if a third party spends money to republish a candidate's campaign material, that spending would be considered a contribution, and that is subject to the candidate contribution limit. This would create a bright line rule for third-party spenders, which will make it clear that if they are taking materials from a candidate's campaign, including materials that are posted publicly on the campaign's website, and then spending money to republish or otherwise redistribute those materials, that spending is subject to the $500 limit. Lastly, the proposed ordinance would establish limits for city elective officers on using committee funds to pay penalties issued for violations of the Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code. The legislation distinguishes between penalties that arise from ethics matters versus campaign finance matters. It prohibits using committee funds to pay for any ethics-related penalties. And for campaign finance violations, the legislation prohibits the use of legal defense funds to pay penalties and only allows committee funds to be used to pay penalties insofar as the committee is also liable for the violations and if the candidate has not violated the law in a knowing or willful manner. There have been some amendments made to the legislation since the draft was first presented in April. Those are detailed in today's memo. There's also draft regulations attached to today's memo. However, those are not agendized for action, as they may need to be further refined throughout the legislative process, at which point they would come back to the Commission for approval before the effective date of the legislation. Taken as a whole, staff believe these are a reasonable package of reforms that will reinforce the city's contribution limit and ensure accountability for violations of city rules. This perspective is echoed by the supportive comments from the Campaign Legal Center and California Common Cause, who both submitted supportive letters prior to today's meeting that are attached to the agenda materials. Staff recommend the Commission vote to approve this ordinance. If approved today, staff will begin working on more focused engagement with the Board of Supervisors, who would also need to approve the legislation for it to become enacted. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. This today and the report that you had issued are really informative and very helpful. I do have a couple questions, or really just one larger question. But before I ask the question, I do want to acknowledge and thank the public for submitting letters and such robust letters with, I think, a lot of support for their positions. And so I wanted to ask specifically about the California Political Attorneys Association letter and the concern that the Supreme Court has deemed as unconstitutional limits, such as the ones that we're seeking to impose. I think there's a lot of, I understand what's animating what we're doing. I think that that much is clear. So I just want to address this to kind of help provide the full picture.
Really happy to speak to that. The prior court rulings on this are related to contribution limits have focused on either ballot measure committee limits in general, saying that those are not permissible in California. The question of a candidate-controlled ballot measure, which is very distinct from just a general ballot measure, that has not been ruled unconstitutional. And I think that's where the same arguments that support the need for a general contribution limit also get carried over, because if it's a candidate-controlled ballot measure committee, the candidate is directly controlling how that money is used. Their name is on the paperwork. Their name is part of the name of the committee, so it's not just candidate. It's not just support Prop X. It is candidate in support of Prop X. So they're totally linked, and the same type of undue influence and quid pro quo corruption that arise from unlimited contributions to a candidate committee can also be applied to a ballot measure committee that they also control. And some of the recent federal cases have been more focused on party committees, which are also, while they're distinct from the candidate committees, they're also not the same as candidate-controlled ballot measure committees. That's the party apparatus is more independent of the candidate than a committee that they legally control.
Is the concern that you're trying to address the communications from candidate-controlled committees on ballot measures to the extent that they feature the candidate's name in those communications?
I'd say it's more than that. I mean, I think as we saw with the Farrell case from 2024, there were lots of issues with on the expenditure side of how communications were going out that were featuring both the candidate and the ballot measure in ways that blurred the lines. But even if the expenditure side had not been at issue there, just having the candidate receive unlimited funds to another committee they control, I think does create the same issues of potentially corrupting influence. That is what the main contribution limits are trying to address. So even if they weren't necessarily blending those funds in the outgoing, having the ability for somebody to be capped at $500 and then be able to turn around and cut a check for $50,000 to the same person at the same time creates similar issues.
Even if those expenditures by the committee are only used to support the ballot proposition but not necessarily to promote candidates?
I think so. As mentioned, the name of the committee, which has to be disclosed on all communications, is going to have the candidate's name in it. And I think it's also, just creates that perception. Director Ford maybe wants to add.
Sorry, just a point of clarification on that. Is the committee's name in this circumstance required to have the candidate's name in it?
Correct, yes.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll always have that?
Yeah. Oh, no.
That's helpful. No further follow-up.
Thank you.
I have a question. The language about what can be disseminated, distributed, reproduced, or republished, it says it's in whole or in part. Previously, it was substantially, substantial part, that is. Why did you take out the substantial?
For the rebuttable presumptions of coordination, it was taken just to harmonize with the new Section D on reproduction, and the rationale for having that reproduction standard not have insubstantial part, I think, is to have a more clear, bright-line rule that leaves less room for confusion around when something crosses the line to be substantial. I think the goal is to have a clear rule that just lets third-party spenders know that if they're taking anything from a campaign's website and reproducing it, that's going to be, unless there's a clear exception in the regs for it, that's going to be considered a contribution to the candidate. Like the underlying goal is that the candidate's campaign materials shouldn't be a source of material for third-party spenders. Those should be clearly independent.
And then the photograph you took out, is that, how do you take care of that here in this section then?
Yeah, in part, so the photographs were mentioned in the exceptions to the rebuttable presumptions of coordination, and it's a little confusing to call them exceptions. They're really just saying that kind of having this condition is not sufficient to prove that coordination exists. And for a lot of those things, it's clear that, like, oh, you interviewed a candidate and then you go out and make an expenditure. That expenditure is not going to inherently be coordinated just because you interviewed that candidate or just because you received their newsletter. That's not going to make all of your communications thus coordinated. And for the other things that are listed in that specific exception, there could be some utility in receiving them that you don't, where you don't have to reproduce them. Like you could take a newsletter and that could inform maybe a little bit of what you're going to use for your independent communication, whereas taking a photograph, there's really not much of a benefit to taking that photograph unless you're going to include it, which is the activity we want to prevent. So there's not really, so it kind of creates a weird situation where somebody's like, oh, I can receive a photo, but then I can't use it. So we thought it was cleaner just to take that photo language out.
So I have another question here, just to try to understand the way the lines are being drawn here. The risks that you mentioned about the donations being made with no cap to a candidate-controlled committee that appear regardless of what communications they're used for. Why is that a risk for the campaigns for city elective office, but not for the county central committees of qualified political parties? Since
Yeah, I think it is a risk for the county central committees, but the distinction there is that the Political Reform Act has a very clear language that says local jurisdictions cannot impose any kind of limitation on the CCC committees. So I think kind of interpreted that our hands were just tied there, but I think those committees do create a very similar risk, but I think state law prevents us from having this change cover them.
that's the only reason that that's carved out the way it is.
Yeah, I think the recommendation would be to include them if we thought it was possible.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before making a motion, I'd like to take public comment. I don't know if there's anybody in the room who'd like to speak.
Good morning. My name is Carla Kente Yoshikawa. I'm a resident of the Sunset District and a volunteer and the San Francisco coordinator for the California Clean Money campaign. I've been here before in opposition to some measures, and I actually came purposely today to be in support of these proposals. And I'm hoping that my message will sort of counteract some of the non-specific vitriolic initial comments that you heard. I'd like to commend the Commission. By making and supporting reforms that strengthen our public funding program, you demonstrate adherence to your own stated mission to practice and promote the highest standards of integrity in government by delivering impactful programs that promote fair, transparent, and accountable decision-making for the benefit of San Franciscans. Doing so does build confidence in the fairness and justice of our government, and I personally appreciate all efforts to ensure our government more effectively serves and is responsive and accountable to the people and not to big money. So thank you, and I appreciate your work today.
Seeing no one else here, would you mind checking the queue, Clerk?
Certainly, it does look like we have 2 callers in the queue, Chair. We'll give it a moment for one of them to connect. Good morning. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you again.
Good morning. 3 minutes starts now.
Yeah, good morning. So I want to really focus on this this agenda item here. I don't know if anybody could read or maybe take out your crayons and your pencils and pens, and maybe I could educate everybody on this. So reinforce contribution limits and ensure accountability. So let's focus on the word contribution. So what does the word contribution mean? Contribution means contribute, right? So one can contribute funds, monetary funds. One can also contribute time, and that time being so one can contribute and donate their time to a campaign. So what that really means is that you do not put any limitations on one's time. And believe me, I know everything about it because time is money. So you do not put any limitations on contributions for time and or money. So hopefully that helps. But as far as I see it, if I say Scott Wiener for Congress and there goes 1,000 votes over to him, I mean it. That's my contribution to him, and certainly my team and I will contribute more to him. But time is money, and we do not put any limitations on time. Therefore, we should never, ever put any limitations on money. Hopefully this makes sense, but somebody learned something, right?
Thank you for your comments. Chair, we do have one more caller. We'll give it a moment for them to connect. Good morning. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Welcome. Your 3 minutes starts now.
All right, thank you. This is Sean McMorris. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm with California Common Cause. I'm the Transparency, Ethics, and Accountability Program Manager. We strongly support the ethics and campaign finance reforms before you today. These are thoughtful and targeted changes that address important gaps in the city's current laws. First, we support applying the city's candidate contribution limit to all candidate-controlled committees while a candidate is actively running for office. Allowing unlimited contributions to flow through affiliated committees undermines the purpose of having candidate contribution limits in the first place. Second, we support clarifying that third-party republication of candidate campaign material constitutes a contribution. The current framework can allow third parties to amplify a candidate's own message without being subject to contribution limits when direct coordination cannot be proven. This creates opportunities to circumvent the rules through practices such as republication and red boxing. Third, we support reasonable limits on the use of legal defense and campaign funds to pay penalties. Allowing candidates or office holders to use funds raised from interested parties to pay penalties for their own violations weakens both accountability and deterrence. I'll note that the Los Angeles Charter Reform Commission recently recommended this form to the LA City Council. Taken together, these reforms close meaningful loopholes and strengthen the integrity of San Francisco's ethics and campaign finance laws. We urge the Commission to move forward with these recommendations. Finally, I want to thank the Ethics Commission and its staff for considering these bold reforms, which address clear loopholes in campaign finance laws. These laws have been significantly diminished over the last 2 decades because of contemporary Supreme Court rulings. Thus, it's important not to become indifferent to new reforms in light of an anti-regulatory Supreme Court. I commend the Ethics Commission and its staff for considering these reforms and hope that you will move them forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Chair Flores-Fang, we're checking the queue to see if there's any callers.
Thank you.
And there are no additional callers for this item.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the draft legislation as amended?
So moved.
Seconded. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Certainly. On the motion to approve on the motion to approve the proposed campaign finance reforms in item 5, Commissioner Francois?
Aye.
Commissioner Tsai?
Aye.
Vice Chair Salahi?
Aye.
And Chair Flores-Fang?
Aye.
Chair Flores-Fang, with 4 votes in the affirmative, the motion passes.
Thank you. Agenda item 5 is now closed. I now call agenda item 6, discussion and possible action on proposed amendments to the Ethics Commission's enforcement regulations. I'd like to invite Senior Investigator Bertha Chung to introduce the item.
Good morning, Chair Flores-Fang, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Bertha Cheng, Senior Investigator of the Enforcement Division of the Ethics Commission. Before I start, I also just wanted to make a quick note that, as mentioned in the Executive Director report, with the tremendous support with Director Ford and my team and the wider office, I will be assuming the role of the Director of Enforcement effective next week. I'm very honored to take this role, and I'm very excited to be working with all of you commissioners. So today, I am here to present the proposed amendments of the enforcement regulations for the Commission to approve and action on it. And I have behind the slides my colleague Eric Willett, who is helping us to advance the slides. So thank you so much, Eric. So, Commissioners, the Commission has reviewed these amendments of the enforcement regulations in detail across multiple sessions. My purpose today is not to revisit everything in the full history, but rather to briefly orient you to where we are, walk through the substantive changes that the Commission specifically directed staff to address a year ago in August last year, and present to you the revised regulations for your consideration and adoption. And I would also kindly ask commissioners to hold questions until the end of the presentation. I have reserved time to ensure that all questions are properly addressed. So as to the background, the enforcement regulations have not been comprehensively updated since 2018. And since that time, the Enforcement Division has grown significantly. In our experience administering the Commission's first full administrative hearing on the merits in February 2024, identify several procedural areas where regulations could be clarified and strengthened. So staff initiated this comprehensive review in late 2024. So since then, looking at the timeline on the screen, staff has conducted 4 interested persons meetings in total, presented to the Commission 3 times in 2025, and completed the required meet and confer process with the San Francisco Municipal Executives Association, which I'll abbreviate as MEA from now on. On August 8th last year, the Commission unanimously voted to defer the adoption and directed staff to address 3 substantive issues. So those 3 substantive issues are the focus of today's presentation. So following the Commission's August 2025 meeting, staff worked with the city's Employee Relations Division to complete the required meet and confer process regarding the proposed amendments. Over approximately the past 10 months, parties exchanged proposals and responses concerning the proposed amendments. So on May this year, the Employee Relations Division, which administers the city's labor relations process, issued a closeout memorandum concluding that the meet and confer process had been completed and authorizing staff to return the proposed amendments of the regulations to the Commission for adoption and consideration. So accordingly, staff is presenting today the revised amendments for Commission's approval and adoption today. So now I will walk through the substantive changes the Commission directed staff to address back in last August. Each change was raised during the Commission's prior discussion, and staff has revised the regulations accordingly. The first issue concerns the relationship between subpoena compliance, objections, and withholding liability. So during the last August discussion, the Commission considered whether a respondent could raise objections to a subpoena in a manner that delays or impedes compliance without potentially triggering a withholding charge. So the revised language, as you can hopefully see on the slides, the revised language now adds the phrase knowingly and intentionally before the withholding language in the regulations. So specifically, this language here aligns the regulations with the existing intent standard already reflected in the respective sections 1.170F, 2.136A, and 3.240A of the Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code. This revision, just to make an important note, it does not change the substantive standard or alter respondent protections. Rather, it ensures consistency between the regulations and the existing code provisions. And moving on, which is a related change, the second clarification relating to the withholding and objections addresses how objections to subpoena interact with withholding liability. So on this point, back in August last year, Commissioner Salahi raised the concerns that objections, including objections asserted for purposes of delay, could potentially prevent effective enforcement of subpoena obligations. So staff have thoroughly considered this particular concern, and we initially considered language that would require some upfront determination regarding whether an objection was frivolous or made in bad faith. However, after some consultation with the City Attorney's Office, staff concluded that the approach could create additional ambiguity regarding timing and decision-making authority. So at the end of the day, so we have thoroughly comprehended or contemplated the language. So the current revised language as it stands provides a clearer framework. So as you can see on the slide, the filing of an objection does not by itself prevent the Commission from considering a withholding charge. Instead, the Commission retains authority in the adjudicative proceeding to evaluate the validity and reasonableness of any objection based on the full record. So in summary, the revised language here places the determination where it belongs, with the Commission as the adjudicator based on the evidence presented in the proceedings. So then, moving on to the second substantive change, that concerns the Commission's oversight of findings of no probable cause. Before discussing that framework, I just wanted to briefly refresh and provide the context regarding another amendment presented previously. So as discussed in August last year, the amendments that we have proposed also provide the executive director authority to issue probable cause findings directly. And currently, the executive director may only make probable cause recommendations. So that change is intended to streamline case processing and reduce unnecessary delay. And the Commission obviously retains full authority to determine whether a violation occurred at a full hearing on the merits. So with respect to findings of no probable cause, staff retained the existing ratification framework applicable to executive directors' probable cause determinations under current Section 7D6 of the regulations, including the existing 5 calendar day period for a commissioner to request Commission's review. So basically, staff extended the same review framework to findings of no probable cause. So in other words, the revised procedure does not create a new process, a review process. It mirrors a process that the Commission already uses for executive director probable cause determinations and applies that same oversight mechanism to no probable cause findings. So I'll go through in detail exactly what we are proposing in terms of the proposed amendments. So first of all, as you can see on the slide, the process operates as follows. First, the executive director prepares a confidential draft finding and transmits it to the Commission. Second, any single commissioner may request review by the full Commission in closed session within 5 calendar days of transmission. And third, if review is requested, the finding does not become final until at least 3 commissioners vote to ratify it at the next regularly scheduled meeting. The Commission may also decline to ratify the finding and direct further actions. And fourthly, if no commissioner requests review within 5 days, then the finding becomes final upon expiration of that period and is issued to the parties within 5 calendar days. And finally, once final, the finding constitutes the Commission's final administrative determination and the case is closed. Any further judicial review would proceed through the applicable procedures under the California Code of Civil Procedures. So that sums up the second substantive changes. As to the last and the third and the last substantive change. So the third substantive change concerns qualifications for pre-hearing officers and hearing officers. So just to refresh commissioners your memory as to the current language, the original language of the enforcement regulations refer to, as I quote, any licensed attorney in the state of California. So back in August last year, commissioners raised some concerns that the language could be interpreted ambiguously and also considered whether the role needed to be limited exclusively to active attorneys. So with thorough consideration, we have now revised the language, which provides that this role may be filled by, as I quote with the actual provisions there, any licensed attorney of the State Bar of California, and inactive licensee of the State Bar of California as permitted under State Bar Rule 2.30C, or any individual member of the Commission. So this language equally applies to pre-hearing officers under Section 9B and hearing officers under Section 10A. So we believe that the revised language provides greater precision, accounts for inactive bar licensee subject to the State Bar Rule, and preserves flexibility by allowing commissioners themselves to serve in those roles. So for completeness, Commissioners, Attachment 3 as part of the agenda materials package, it includes a full summary of additional revisions that we made since August last year. But these include things like stylistic updates, capitalization corrections, session references, and cross-citation updates. But just to be clear, none of these changes, none of these revisions change the substance of the regulations, so I'm not going to go through each of them today, apart from the substantive changes which I have went through in detail. So finally, moving to the last part, that concludes the substantive changes that we have been directed by the commissioners to make the relevant amendments, and staff recommends that the commission adopt the amendments as set forth in attachment 1 of our agenda materials. These amendments, we believe, reflect the Commission's direction to us from August last year. It also incorporates the revisions requested by the Commissioners, and it follows the completion of the required meet and confer process and reflect our consultation with the City Attorney's Office throughout the process. And overall, I would say that the amendments modernize the enforcement regulations, clarify procedures that have been developed through our experience, and certainly strengthen our enforcement framework. So we respectfully recommend the commissioners to approve the enforcement regulations as presented. So that concludes my presentation. I am very happy to take up any questions at this time.
Thank you. That was very helpful. I have no questions at the moment. I'll cede to my fellow commissioners if they have any questions to start with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in the public who wishes to ask any questions or provide public comment?
Chair Flores Fang, I'm checking the queue to see if there's any callers.
I think since no one may have, sorry to interrupt, I think you can sit if no one has direct questions for you. Sorry.
Thank you,
I didn't
Chair.
excuse you earlier. Jump right into public comment. Please check the queue.
And it looks like there are 2 callers for this item. We'll give 1 moment for them to connect. Welcome, caller. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Your 3 minutes starts now.
Hello. Yeah, it's San Francisco again. So I think we've been through this a couple times now. So when doing a presentation, it's critical. Really the foundation of every presentation is to know your audience. And I think it's really critical in this circumstance to understand where you are at this point in time. Guess where you're at, presenter? You're on TV. Yeah. You know who's watching us? The public, the community, the taxpayers, the people that own the building. So it's very, very critical to tailor your message to the public, to the community, to the owners of the building, to the taxpayers. What we just heard in the last, say, 5 to 8 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was a data dump. Simply a data dump. It really means nothing to us. It really doesn't mean anything on how it impacts the Ethics Commission, which is really a de facto commission, I guess I could say. I don't know what other words come to mind at the moment, but really tailoring your message, and everybody needs presentation skill work, help on their skills, but that was simply, it was an obtuse presentation. So it needs a lot of work. I don't know who appointed you to this position, whether it be Ford or somebody else, but really, really, it was underwhelming presentation.
Thank you for your comments. Chair Flores Fang, looks like we have 1 more caller. We'll give them a moment to connect.
Sullivan.
Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes starts now.
As known, explanatory documents are not referred to in the agenda item 6, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed amendments to the Ethics Commission and enforcement regulations violating public meeting requirements. It is hard to tell if commissioners and the public are aware of them. In the proposed amendments to the enforcement regulations, there is no mention of the Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.30E and Sunshine Ordinance Section 6535D. Both have provisions for submitting complaints to the Ethics Commissions. These should be addressed by the Ethics Commission enforcement regulations and by the Ethics Commissioners. Ignoring them and those 2 administration codes will continue to be used by the public and the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force in ambiguity and possible waste of everyone's time. Even if the commissioners rule in the enforcement regulations that the Ethics Commission will not take any complaints under the Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.30E and Sunshine Ordinance Section 6735D, then everyone will know. Right now, how the Ethics Commission handles such complaints is not transparent. The word willful is mentioned multiple times in the Ethics Commission regulations and allows for the Ethics Commission staff to dismiss complaints they deem not willful. Yet there is no definition of willful to be used for dismissing sworn complaints in the regulations as regard to public officers. Administrative Code Article XV, Ethics Section 15.105E, official misconduct. Official misconduct means any wrongful behavior by a public officer in relation to the duties of his or her office, willful in its character, including any failure, refusal, or neglect of an officer to perform any duty enjoined on him by or her by law. I have found that the Ethics Commission does not use this definition. They seem to define willful as needing to be intentional, and that is not in the definition of willful in the Administrative Code or in the dictionary. Failure or neglect to follow the law does not need to be intentional, but mostly by the time most complaints are filed, the officer has been notified of his failure to follow the law, so it becomes intentional. The published regulations on your websites are communications to both your staff and the public. The clearer the instructions, the better for everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Chair Flores-Fang, we're checking the queue to see if there's any additional callers. And there are no additional callers for this item.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to adopt the amended enforcement regulations?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion. I seconded the motion. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Commissioner Francois?
Aye.
Commissioner Sai?
Aye.
Vice Chair Salahi?
Aye.
Chair Flores-Fang?
Aye.
Chair Flores-Fang, with 4 votes in the affirmative, the motion passes.
Thank you. Agenda item 6 is now closed. I now call agenda item 7, discussion and possible action on items for future meetings. Does any commissioner wish to speak on this item? No. Anyone in the public? Would you mind checking the queue?
Checking the queue, Chair. 1 moment. And there are no callers in the queue.
Hearing no callers for public comment. Public comment on agenda item 7 is now closed. I now call agenda item 8, additional opportunity for general public comment. Anyone here today who wishes to speak? Anyone in the queue?
Checking the queue 1 more time. And there are no callers, Chair.
Seeing no one in the public who wishes to speak and hearing no callers, public comment on agenda item number 8 is now closed. I now call agenda item 9, adjournment. Thank you. This concludes the August 14th, 2026 meeting of the San Francisco Ethics Commission. Have a great day.